Hello, my name is Roman Djindjihashvili, and this is a lecture, very instructive lecture. At the same time, it's my most memorable games. Um, it can fit into both categories. So this game was played by me like no more than 2 weeks ago. It was played against quite famous Grandmaster Fabiano Caruana from Italy, formerly originally from New York. And what makes this game memorable, not because I played a very strong player and I won, because a while ago, several months ago, I had a lecture on Chess.com about very interesting piece sacrifice that was played before. This position happened before, but what never happened, that white always plays knight a4 in this position, and there are some games in database. And I started advocating this piece sacrifice, knight d5, and it's quite surprising to me that it happened in my game just a little bit ago. I played this game against other players, also on the internet, and I had quite good results. Actually, I practically won every game, and the reason I won every game, not because white has a winning position, because I knew these positions much better than anyone else. I made a lecture on chess.com. I made a DVD. There is a DVD about this piece sacrifice, and I spent countless hours analyzing it. Well, of course, after knight d5, everybody would take, because this piece sacrifice looks very harmless for black. All black has to do just to conclude development, because white doesn't have overwhelming advantage in development. Why this sacrifice may be good? First of all, black cannot just develop and castle. Black cannot castle in this game, period. For example, on bishop e7, there will be d6 with a big advantage for white, and after bishop takes g2, d takes e. Black is in trouble. White gets his piece back and has big advantage. So castling is postponed indefinitely for black. And in this position, on my DVD, I correctly recommended bishop c5 as the best option. That's exactly what happened in my game against Caruana. Rook e1 check, king f8, and knight b3. Now, in this position, when I analyzed and made the DVD, I said the best move for black is d6, and I still think it is. And then we play knight takes c5, dc, and c4. Well, actually, what you may want to do, you may want to go back and look at this position in the lecture that I discussed. And I don't want to go into details with this position, because that's not what happened. If you want to see details about this position, you should dig out that lecture of mine. And I said that bishop d6 I do not recommend. That's the move that was played by Caruana. The reason why I did not recommend this move, because it halts black's development. Now black cannot go pawn d7 to d6 and free its knight on b8. But right now you see knight on b8 is cannot be developed. Bishop on b7 is bad, and all white has a couple of extra pieces developed. What we have to do, we're going to have a problem with a d5 pawn that needs extra protection. Go c4, and obviously the threat is c5, so it was taken en passant, and black still has a problem with a developing knight on b8 and bishop on b7. Originally, when I analyzed it, I said that white has enough positional compensation due to a terrible location of black's minor pieces. And I was very happy when I was able to prove it, and when I saw it, how it can develop from here on. My opponent in this position played a5. Well, it could have played h5, tried to develop the king on h7, but on h5 I would go knight d4, and on king g8, knight f5, and on bishop c5, rook b1. This is very, very difficult position for black to play. And on queen c8, for example, bishop g5, and they are facing multiple problems. So what happened is my opponent played a5, intending to develop knight on a6 and c5. Black needs to develop pieces. After a5, knight d4 was played. Now, of course, the reason Caruana went for that position without, hesitating, because this is a blitz game and he doesn't have much time to hesitate. So, and there is no immediate threat. Anyone would take the extra piece. And that's exactly what happened. After knight d4, I want to go knight f5. And here, my opponent played bishop c5. In the game, you can find several mistakes, because 3-minute game cannot be perfect, of course. But still, it shows you the power of the sacrifice and power of initiative. Rook b1 was played, and this position is already critical, maybe lost. My opponent played bishop takes d5, which is absolutely losing move that I didn't take advantage of. I played bishop takes d5, knight takes d5, and I played queen f3. Well, queen f3 is okay move. I have a very good position after queen f3. But queen h5 is instantly winning move, because the knight is hanging, knight cannot move because the bishop is hanging, and if bishop takes on d4, then queen takes d5, attacking rook on a8, bishop on d4, and after knight takes knight c6, cd, white has a huge advantage. They have no material deficit, huge positional advantage, and black is in danger of never surviving next few moves. So I missed queen h5, but I played queen f3. Actually, Now retroactive, I'm even happy I missed it because game became very interesting. Queen f3. Well, knight protects the rook, and now knight f5. Well, in this position, black doesn't have a good option. So what can they play? In a game, black played knight c6 and lost. Well, we're going to go on with the game, but before we do, let me show you on knight c6 what happened is knight takes g7, and king cannot take because black gets instantly mated either this way or this way. So h5 could have prevented it, but on h5, white, after the game, I analyzed the game, and white has very powerful move, bishop g5, attacking the queen. And this is practically gives black no choice than go queen c8. Well, maybe even maybe f6. And then after bishop f4, attack is very strong. I want to point to you that queen takes g5 would lose to queen takes a8. And you see taking queen would lead to a mate. And so that didn't happen. Bishop g5, f6, bishop f4 also creates a lot of problem for black's king. But probably, perhaps, this was the better option, because after knight c6, knight takes g7, rook g8 must be played, and now I simply went knight f5 with the threat of bishop h6 check, rook g6, h4. Position is clearly better for white. White is a piece down, but they have multiple threats. Black cannot even conclude development. h5 is threatening, discomforting the rook. So knight e6, especially in a blitz, is a very natural move. h5, and after rook f6, bishop h6 check. Now this position is already nearing the end. This game is nearing the end. After bishop h6 check, of course, bishop has to be taken. Knight takes h6, and queen e7, protecting the mate on f7. And in this position, I went knight g4. My idea was to play knight f6, and that's exactly what happened. But better option would have been to, as Ripka showed after the game, the best move in this position is king g2. Why king g2? It's a necessary move, because the reason king g2 is that white is trying to play rook e4 followed by rook g4 with a mating attack. But immediate rook e4 fails due to knight g5, and black wins. So after king g2, and suppose black plays rook c8, rook e4, it's very difficult to find any defense, because on knight e8, on king e8, for example, if king tries to run, then knight g8 and knight f6 check is very devastating. That would have been the best way to play. However, I went knight g4, and this also proved to be very sufficient compensation for a. Actually, we don't have much material disadvantage. We have rook and pawn for two minor pieces, and h6, king h8, and knight f6. Well, in this position, black is absolutely helpless. The big threat is queen f5. Well, for example, if black makes some neutral move, then queen f5, which wins immediately due to queen takes h7 mate. So my opponent played queen d6. The idea is on queen f5, he will probably attempt knight f8. So that would have been one way for him to defending. But queen d6 allows different solution. Now we're simply forking queen and a bishop. And when black moved a queen, we just take the bishop. And black has to take back the piece. And now rook takes e6 is absolutely devastating. That eliminates knight, that protects g7 square, and game ended in a mate. Now, this was actually what I was happy about, not so much with the fact that I won the game. Well, it once more justified. I have one more justification of this piece sacrifice. A little unusual. I went to database to look at this position, and I found that no one played. There was only one game on relatively low level at this position, and no one played knight b3, and they didn't play knight b3, and almost nobody in this position allows b4, weakening e4. Some of them play a3, trying to stop b4. Some castle, and after b4 go knight a4. Just limit their material losses to a pawn and trying to get the compensation for it. But this is counterintuitive and very interesting a piece sacrifice that was suggested by me, but of course my suggestion would have been nearly as valued as it is now without help of Ripka, and I spent countless hours analyzing it, and actually the one and the most critical position for this sacrifice is the one that I analyzed on my lecture given on chess.com. When we go c4, and after knight d7 a3, and after a5 queen a4, and when black goes king g8, then b3, after knight b6 queen b5, it's interesting that there is no upcoming threats for white. White doesn't have any big threats here. So, but it's very difficult for black to conclude development, and I proved on my lecture and on my DVD that white has sufficient compensation. Not necessarily white is winning or white has big advantage. White has sufficient compensation for a minor piece. Very, very rare case, because it's only one pawn for a minor piece, and there are no concrete threats. But bad bishop on b7, bad position of the king make this sacrifice very, very credible. Well, then, so in this position, actually, when we just played b3, if black goes h6, then queen b5 and queen c6, and it's getting very difficult for white for black to do anything. On queen c8, we can go rook e7. It's ongoing pressure against black's pieces, and white has very good compensation. You should try sometime to either play this for white, or maybe if you want to analyze, it will be, I would suggest it's very helpful to analyze it with help of good engine. Good engine, I mean Ripka. It's only relatively good engine now. And that will improve a lot your sense of initiative and will improve your ability to play some very active position. Actually, also bishop h3 is possibility. So white has sufficient compensation for a piece. Well, I hope this game was helpful for you, and you learn a lot from playing positions with initiative, and also very important. I don't think I would have won this game without good knowledge of this sacrifice. Well, actually, not that I wouldn't have won this game, I wouldn't have played this game, this sacrifice, without having sufficient knowledge. And I was proud that my idea stood up and result was so convincing. So thank you very much, and I hope you learned something.